Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the new Knives Out movie that just came out onto Netflix, and I believe it was in theaters for a few days, and that's Knives Out Wake Up Dead Man. So this is Knives Out 3. There were two prior installments. The first one that came out in 2019, I believe, and obviously the second one coming out somewhere between that time. So the first two movies I actually thoroughly enjoyed. The last movie of this Knives Out franchise, so to speak, had me really anticipating this third movie. And I don't know if it's been pushed back or anything, but I remember looking it up like over the years, and every time it would say, oh, next year is coming out, next year. And then it finally comes out, and I feel like it wasn't even like announced that much. I don't know if the last one was, though, to be honest with you. But yeah, and unfortunately, I was disappointed with this movie. So without going too much into detail about the entirety of the movie and trying to avoid doing a recap, firstly, the Knives Out franchise, it's like murder mystery with some comedy intertwined. And this particular movie, Wake Up Dead Man, had about 8 to 9 central characters. And let's just say I found the ultimate suspect, the person who did everything, was exactly who I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the movie. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of movies where that's what happens, but I feel like when the story is good, or even when there's like a good twist, like I'm totally fine with that. As a matter of fact, it kind of annoys me just a little bit when it's somebody who it's like you would never suspect, like there's no motive, there's no reason for them to have done said crime. But I do also really enjoy when it's somebody who it's like, oh, maybe they could do it and this is their motive. And then it turns out that's their motive. And then there's also a little twist. But this one was slightly disappointing. So spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The person who committed the crime was Martha, and I believe she was the bookkeeper for the church, or she pretty much handled all church financial stuff, everything, and all of the priest Wilkes things in throughout the church. And pretty much a little backstory on Martha. Martha was a little girl working in the church. I'm not exactly sure why or how, but she'd been working in the church for a long time, since she was a child, and she knew the current priest's grandfather, and also his mother, who was known as not the best person. They called her a harlot, something else. And at the beginning of the movie, we kind of see, or not the beginning, I'm not sure, but we see beginning or throughout the movie that the grandfather priest, he passed away, and then also the current priest's mother passed away as well shortly thereafter. And then so you get the gist that this is gonna be something that kind of comes back to this sort of mystery throughout the movie. And let's just say that the ending wasn't all that interesting. It's like, okay, I understood her reasoning for doing certain things throughout the movie. Like, there's no confusion as to why anything happened. I just felt like it wasn't that interesting. Like, this movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I really felt like, though we were getting story, there wasn't, it wasn't interesting enough. Like, I feel like I needed a little bit more mystery. I don't really feel like anything was intriguing to me or really holding me, aside from the fact that it was a Knives Out movie. Touching base with some other characters, there's a cellist who I found to be pretty insignificant. Like, obviously they gave everyone a motive here, but I found her to be pretty insignificant. You had a writer who at first we think that a book that he wrote has something to do with the death. So I guess that kind of plays a part, but we never delve into that throughout the movie. Then, of course, we have the doctor. And so I feel like a lot of times in movies, we have the doctor, a butler, and a groundskeeper. And I feel like those three people are also always suspicious in some way or have something to do with something, even if they haven't done the direct crime. So immediately the doctor is like on my radar. There's also a groundskeeper, but this groundskeeper in particular didn't really set anything off for me to really suspect him. He doesn't really do much throughout the movie, and so I think I would have been pretty annoyed if he was the suspect at the end of all this. Of course, we have Martha. Then we have a lawyer and her adopted son. The lawyer is played by Kerry Washington, and I feel like Kerry Washington, who's a great actress, a well-known actress, didn't do much in this movie, and that's really unfortunate. She had one moment where she had this big speech for a certain reason and like calling out the priest, and I didn't feel it. Now, her adopted son, we later figure out, is not actually her adopted son. Well, we know from the beginning of the movie, it's not her son. It's actually her illegitimate brother. But then we find out, sorry, here's another spoiler. Click off if you don't want to hear it. We find out that Cy, who is her brother / adopted son, is not even related to her. It's actually the current priest's son, who pretty much, her father, who was the priest's grandfather's best friend, and drinking buddy, took home and pretty much made her care for him. And then she ended up adopting him. And that's why that's her son. And we kind of get glimpses of similarities between, Cy, the adopted son, and the priest. Pretty much their ego, their aim for power and notoriety, or, conceitedness, or, narcissistic tendencies. And so at the beginning of the movie, that's kind of hinted at. And so when they revealed that he was the priest's son, I wasn't really too much shocked. I didn't really think that was that interesting of a reveal. Aside from, obviously, I thought, okay, this is probably going to become a factor, because throughout the movie, we find out that the grandfather had some fortune that Wilkes wants, who's the priest. And so obviously that's going to come into play, because now he has a son who could possibly get that fortune. And so, there's that. But the other character that is in this movie is the priest, the young priest who comes to this congregation to help out the current priest, Wilkes, who he is the victim in all of this. I didn't say that, but he is the one who dies, who is murdered in this movie. And so of course we know that this young priest is probably going to end up being a suspect in in this mystery. And so the movie kind of plays on the fact that, the congregation, well, the main congregation, which is all of those 7 people that I mentioned, obviously excluding Wilkes, the priest, they don't really like him. They have this cultish devotion to Priest Wilkes, which is so odd. But yeah, and so they don't really like him. And so we, of course, know that he's probably going to try and be framed or blamed for the murder of the priest once it happens. And the murder of the priest happens in a way that he's definitely, this young priest is definitely a suspect. However, then we go to finding, we have Benoit Blanc, who is the detective, starts working with him to try and figure out who's done it. And then the audience kind of feels like, okay, well, I don't think he did it, And then we get to this part where there's this sort of confession where we think, oh, he might have done something, but really he was just trying to cover for Priest Wilkes and his drinking problems. And so now we're like, okay, he didn't do it. And so obviously we get to the end of the movie. We find out, okay, it's Martha. Now, I was fairly disappointed with this because the way she was acting throughout the movie and them showing her as a young child at the beginning of the movie, it's like, okay, I kind of figured that she would be the suspect, the one who's done it. And they took almost 40 minutes. Like, we found out it was her and they took almost 40 minutes to tell the entire story of what happened, how she did it, some parts of when she was a young girl. And I'm just like, why did we need that? It was so not interesting. And there was no twist in any of this. And so it was just very dry and boring to me. I personally feel like, okay, if we know it's going to be Martha, how about, because clearly at the end we see like this little girl is like a little cuckoo. Like, she was getting slapped in the face and she was laughing, like as a child, like an 8 to 10-year-old. She was laughing. So obviously something is off with her. I feel like we could have played up the fact that something is off with her. Maybe have her have hid something, like that she did something when she was a child. Aside from the fact from just knowing what the grandfather priest did with his fortune. I feel like her having done something very nefarious as a child would have made this reveal a little bit better, in addition to all the crimes that she pretty much committed in the present day. And I think that would have made it a little bit better. That would have given it a little tiny twist. Another route I feel like they probably could have gone down is actually making the young priest, be the one who did it. Because at the beginning, we're pretty sure he didn't do it. Then we're kind of like, oh, maybe he did. And then we find out that he didn't. And so I think what would have been cool is like, yes, we find out, yeah, Martha, and also, I'm so sorry, the doctor had a place in this crime as well. So he was also guilty, but he's dead, so it doesn't matter. But have them, like Martha and the doctor, still have their plan to murder the priest. And again, I'm not going to give all the reasons why, but have them murder the priest. And also, by the way, the reason that she wanted to murder the priest is because he wanted to get his grandfather's fortune, but Martha didn't want him to have it. And the reason being is because she thought that he was way too egotistical. He was probably going to use it for selfish gain, and she didn't want that. And so she didn't really want it for herself. She just wanted to keep it from him. The doctor, he got selfish and wanted the money. He ended up getting offed because of it, but not before he murders her beloved Sam, who is the groundskeeper, they were in a relationship, and this is known throughout the movie. But yeah, so I think that they could have at least like had Martha and Nat, the doctor, still have their plan to murder the priest, and somehow like it kind of goes awry a little bit, but but unbeknownst to them, it doesn't go awry, because when they go to look and the priest is laying there, he actually is dead. And we still have the young priest bending down over him. And so, of course, he looks guilty, right? And we could have had like him somehow be the one who actually like completed the murder, not knowing of Martha and Nat's scheme. And so at the end of it, Benoit Blanc, the detective, would have been arresting Martha, who was the only... we could have had Benoit Blanc arresting Martha because of the crime that she committed, because he thinks that she murdered the priest. And then as he's going out, or at some point, he has some type of epiphany that, wait, this doesn't add up, and then runs back in, or however you want to do it, and we kind of figure out that the young priest is actually the one who murdered Priest Wilkes. And he does have motive, because the two of them, him and Priest Wilkes, did not get along. At the beginning of the movie, we've seen that he's used to having his own flock, his own congregation, and maybe that would have been getting to him. And he saw that the people were kind of cultish with Wilkes, but he was also not a good priest, and he could have been doing it thinking that, oh, I'm doing this for the betterment of the people, and just have like a twisted reason for doing that. So I think, yeah, and then ultimately him getting arrested for the murder, Martha still getting arrested for conspiring to murder, and neither of them knowing that each other was doing or going to carry out this plan. But yeah, I just feel like ultimately, I guess I kind of just like more twists, more story, more intrigue, and not too much straightforwardness without a good story behind it when it comes to like mysteries, thrillers, murder mysteries, stuff like that. And so yeah, I would have to rate this movie probably a 4.5 out of 10. I was really disappointed, and it makes me want to go back and rewatch the other two Knives Out movies. But yeah, if you guys have watched this movie, please tell me what you thought about it in the comments down below. And make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I'm also going to be trying to start to review more books again, so that's also going to be a thing. But yeah, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.